Well, today I have a video on the Dynam F4U Corsair. This is a 50-inch wingspan airplane, and if you've been following my channel, you know I recently picked up an airfield Mustang, and I've been having so much fun with that. I finally decided to go ahead and grab the other warbird that I've always been very interested in, and that's the Corsair. There were other options, but these Dynam planes, you know, when you shop around for them, they just kind of represent the value line, I would say, compared to all the other aircraft with similar specs. So I saw the Corsair. Motion RC did a really nice video demonstration with the flight and kind of walked around the airplane. So I decided I wanted to give Dynam a try because they've got a lot of other warplanes that look pretty cool too. And for the price, they're kind of hard to argue. So with that, obviously the plane is already assembled and I've got it put together and ready to maiden, which will be coming up very soon. But I thought I'd go through a couple of the things I learned during this build. So first off, I'll just start by saying from a quality perspective, I don't think the Dynams hold up to like the Airfield or the FMS airplanes. And I'll go through and show why I say that. The build itself was pretty not uneventful. There were a couple of areas that were a little frustrating, but overall the parts went together well enough. There's some nice detail. They give a nice decal kit. By the way, there were no decals on this at all. You have to put the decals on yourself. With the airfield model, they were already applied, which saves quite a bit of time. So anyway, let's go through some of the things I learned on the build, and we'll get into the maiden in another video. So first things first, that's one of the first things I noticed taking it out of the box is that little white area that's uncovered by paint. They didn't include, they didn't really finish the paint on that side. Another thing I noticed, it might be hard to see it, but right here there's a score mark across the top of the fuselage. Not a big deal. I mean, it's a warbird at the end of the day, so not a big deal. But it is a MAR, and it's not quite right. The other thing is they give the canopy, you have to assemble the canopy. So the pilot's not in there, and there's a little sticker on the dash that's not in there. And if you look really close on the dash, I don't think you'll be able to see it on the video, but if you look really close on the cockpit, there's one of the gauge symbols is a music note, which I thought was kind of strange. Internal, pretty nice, simple layout inside. I've got most of the wires organized. I did the lights last, that's why they're not zip tied down. While I'm on the subject of lights, these lights are terrible. I don't even know why they bother. They're both the same color. They're both very dim, minor amber. So honestly, I just don't even know why they bother. The second thing is these little glued on plastic. They're supposed to be machine guns. They're just kind of weak. It's kind of a weak attempt. I know the machine guns on the Corsair were recessed, but I don't know. It just seems kind of like a weak attempt to me just to put out a stamped piece, and they glued it on, and you can see glue all the way around the edge. So just a little sloppy. The motor and prop combination, I'll tell you, when I first turned it on, I got some stuttering. And I've read about that. In fact, they did some work, and you'll see this. There's a ferrite ring, and there's something else under heat shrink, and I'm not sure what that thing is. I read about it once, but apparently it was supposed to help fix the stuttering issue. I wasn't all that impressed, to be honest with you. On power, it seems to be fine. I have not put a watt meter on it yet. I will do that. But on power, it seems to run okay. On low power, not so much. The other thing missing, another little detail piece that I saw on the airfield, where the props had the manufacturer stickers and the tips were all yellow. And that really, aside from the fact that it's only a 3-bladed prop, it kind of should have done that too. So again, these are little details. Nothing in there is a deal breaker, but they're little details that you kind of miss out on compared to some of the more expensive airplanes out there. Another thing I'll cover real quick is if you take a look at the rudder, hopefully you can see this in the video, but in the rudder, while I was putting the horn on, I noticed that the rudder seam, it was totally coming apart in there. I mean, it was bad. I saw daylight, and this is brand new out of the box. All I did was basically put that control horn in. So what I did, I know a lot of guys, I went and read about it afterwards, and I know a lot of guys will go ahead and rehinge these. I took a little trick out of my flight test foam building days, and I used hot glue. I smeared some hot glue in there, and I did that on both sides twice. And that gave it a lot more rigidity. It's a lot more structurally sound. I noticed the same type of issue on the elevator, not as bad, but you can see on this side, I put in some hinge tape, and then I did the same thing over there. And then on the bottom, what I did is right here on where the brake would start, I put another pretty thick layer of hot glue and just kind of, work the elevator back and forth until it dried. So that feels much more stable and much more reliable to me now. Another little short that I think that most airplanes come with these days, and I feel a lot better about it, is silicone tubing over the clevis. Nothing of the sort on this plane. I will put that on this plane before I maiden, so I still have a little bit more work to do, but I'm just a little disappointed there's no surgical tubing there. One thing that I did find that was kind of surprising and nice is that this tail wheel works with the rudder. I don't know why I was surprised, but when you read the instructions, it basically says you put the tail wheel in, screw down the grub screw, and when I first did that, I thought it was just a fixed tail wheel, but it turns out it works with the rudder, so that's kind of cool. They did put the control horns on the ailerons. They were already set, and that's kind of nice, saves a little bit of time. In fact, not only were the control horns on, but the clevises were on as well. I also see inside the elevator, looks like there's probably a little bit of softness in the hinge line there. I'll be keeping a very close eye on that, and if I need to, I'll wind up going in and gluing that or adding some hinge tape there. Another thing is the weight. I know a lot of guys have problems getting these things to balance. What I ended up doing was if you look at the battery compartment, they already had the Velcro strip in there, but I took a razor blade and I cut out pieces all along the inner fuselage all the way in so that I could mount my 5200 Multi-Star 4S packs. And when I do that, I'll try and get this lid all the way up there. I put it in upside down so I didn't have to deal with Velcro. But when I line the back of the battery up with this mark, the center of gravity comes out to be about 85 millimeters exactly. So that's going to work out really well. That's the battery I'll be flying this airplane with. Okay, the next big thing that I really kind of have a gripe on is the wing assembly. I've put a lot of airplanes together, and I got to tell you, the wing assembly on this one, it kind of left me uninspired. There's no spar that goes over both halves of the wings. I'm going to go ahead and fly it the way it comes out of the box. I understand they fly. I haven't seen any crash reports based on a spar not being there. But I got to be honest, any airplane of significance I have has some kind of spar going across the join. So the way they assemble the spar on this aircraft, or the wings, is you basically glue them together on that seam, and then you put those two little plastic screw caps in and glue them in, and that's it. It screws to the airplane. Now the wing is keyed. If you can see this little blue riser right here, that's part of the wing, and there's the same thing on the other side. So it is keyed, but I just think it's kind of weird not to have a spar going across the center of the wing. We'll see what happens. Another thing I'll tell you about is, if you look in here, you can see this screw with the tip right there. I had to carve the foam out because no matter how I tried, I could not get that screw on the underside to engage that nut. It was, I don't know what the heck. I don't know if it was misaligned or what, but I ended up having to take this screw out, or a little bit of this foam out, to find that screw head so I could see what was going in from this side. Finally, I got it to bite and it screwed in tight. But I'll be honest with you, the length of the wires coming out of the wings and into the fuselage are very small. That set is the aileron set. It's either aileron or gear. No, that's the gear. And then in the back, underneath all this mess, is the aileron set, and they give you very little room to work. So while the wing is drying, after you've glued the wing halves together, you're supposed to put it on the airplane and put the plastic cups in. And I wanted to do that anyway because I kind of wanted the wing fixed to the fuselage before the glue dried connecting the two wing halves, because I didn't want the wing halves to come out wrong. So as soon as the glue got a little bit tacky, I went ahead and flipped it over and worked on getting the wings mounted to the fuselage just to make sure everything came out square. They use the same kind of mounting technique on the back. They have you glue the vertical stabilizer to the horizontal stabilizer, and then there's a couple of screws that go in underneath. There's one here and one there. Same kind of thing. It was a real pain in the neck to get those screws started. I just wasn't impressed. I think they could have done a better job with that. And honestly, I don't have any idea why in the molding process they couldn't have cleared out a little bit of a hole here so you could see what the heck you were doing when you were screwing that in. Same with the front. There's another cap up front, and there's no way to see what's going on. The other thing I'll say is that the wire, if you see that little gouge mark right there, one of my wires kind of got pinched up putting the wing in, and when I pulled on it, just got my fingers in there and pulled a little bit, the servo plastic housing came right off. So another quality problem. I wasn't, just not impressed. So fortunately I have my own servo crimping tool, and I was able to crimp 3 more pins on and put another connection on there, and I was good to go. Another kind of gripe I have is the gear. So it has retractable gear, which is cool, and they pivot, so they're 90-degree pivots. So if you look at the bottom, you'll see that when they retract, they spin 90 degrees and pull up into the wheel wells, which is cool. That looks good. The problem is one of them works probably about 85% of the time. I know that's going to be a problem because this is on the ground, on the bench. And when you're up flying and you have some airspeed, who knows? I'll be paying very close attention to that. I fully expect that I'll have some gear issues. I've also caught on the forums. It's a good idea to put a couple of washers under the back 2 mounting screws on these retracts to prevent nose overs on landing. So I'll do that too, but I'm going to fly it box stock first and see what happens. Hopefully I'll be able to keep this prop. The other thing I'll say is the prop was pretty well out of balance. I spent a lot of time getting the prop trued up the best I can. And even though I have a Dubro balancer and I spent a lot of time on it, I still get some vibration up here, and I think it's due to this billet nose cone. The color is really cool. I really like the flat dark blue coloring on this airplane. It looks really nice. And I like the decals. They look pretty good. Oh, there's one. These MP stickers on the back, on the tail, the way they go on, if you look at this side, the P lines up with the trailing edge of the vertical stabilizer exactly. So I wanted to mimic that on this side, but when you do, the top of the N wraps around the front. So kind of like, well, the only other option would be to feed the white into the hinge gap, and I didn't really want to do that. So that's another little oversight. I think these stickers are just a little too big. They could have probably made them a little bit shorter, and things would have been better. So on this side it worked out fine because it's a P. On the other side, because it's an N, that's a wide letter at the top corner, and it wrapped around. I actually started to peel it off, and I was going to just trim it with scissors or a razor, and of course, it started to peel the paint off, so I just left it. Here's another little point right here in terms of quality. There's a little ding there. I mean, this thing hasn't been touched. It came out of the plastic wrap, got its stickers, got the control horn, got mounted on the plane, but there's paint missing right there too. So other than a couple of very minor cosmetic flaws, the paint does look very cool. I'll give them that. It's a good color. It's a flat blue, and I do like the way it looks. One other thing that I've heard, and I don't know how concerned I am about it yet, is that some folks have said this canopy or this cowl, the magnets are a little too weak. Frankly, I'm not sure why that matters, because with the prop spinning, it's going to push air back. So I don't know that matters. I'll keep a very close eye on it while I'm flying, especially the first few flights, to see what happens. So that's it. I think those are the high points of the build video. This is kind of one of those things, I think you kind of get what you pay for. This thing, I paid $125 for this airplane, and it kind of looks like it. It kind of looks like a $125 airplane in terms of the way it went together and some of the flaws. This one doesn't have any flaps. The tail wheel doesn't retract. It's kind of more of a value line airplane, so I'm not totally surprised. And I can't say that I'm necessarily even really disappointed, but it's not going to be on the same level of quality as you'll get with, say, an FMS aircraft or even the airfield. I think the airfield, they're putting out a pretty quality part right now, and I don't even think it's on par with that in terms of quality. So more of a budget or value type airplane. But hey, you know what? After a couple flights, it's going to have more nicks in it anyway, and it is a warbird. So I'm not too upset about it. We'll just see how it flies. If it flies good, and I've got good power, and it's got good maneuverability, and maybe hopefully good ground handling, then you know, some of these little cosmetic annoyances will be vacated and not much of a concern. Okay, so that's it for the build review. Hope it's been helpful. If it has, you know the drill. Please subscribe and hit the like button. And comments are welcome and encouraged. Comments help drive ratings in the YouTube video system as well. So the more people are talking about a video, the higher the thing shows up in the system as well. So appreciate your feedback, and stand by to look for the Maiden, which will be coming up soon. Take care.